Welcome to the Drew Dynamite channel. How y'all doing? We got some Midnight Alpha information out, and with it, we got the talent trees for Unholy, Frost, and Blood. For this video, I thought I'd do some theory crafting with the talent builds for what I think would be best for RBGs and BG Blitz. Mostly for Unholy DK, but I will go over Frost and Blood as well. So similar to what we saw in Warlords of Draenor, there's going to be a massive ability pruning. And as we go, you're going to notice some abilities are missing. Like, for example, Soul Reaper, gone. Sacrificial Pact, gone. Wraithwalk is now in a choice node. Thank God we didn't lose that. Abomination Limb, it's been gone since 11.2, but it's coming back for Blood DK. Can't have fun in PvP because of raids. Okay, to start off with the main class tree. Hi, Drew from the future here. Funny story. Just as I was about to upload this video, a new updated alpha talent calculator came out, and it massively changed the class tree. So I'm just gonna do the class tree over again. And there were also some changes with Unholy, but not a lot, so I'll sneak like some of those in when my past self covers Unholy, and we're just gonna go from there. So Icebound, need that. So D&D was changed. You no longer need Death and Decay to cleave. It's just a flat out ground AoE attack, and the damage was increased by 130%, but we still need this talent. And improved Death Strike, and Runic Attuneation, and Runic Attuneate. This one, Mind Freeze, Blinding Sleet. Gloom Ward was moved to here, and now it's 2 points, so it's not just 15%. You can also bring it up to 30% if you want. We're going to leave it blank for now. Wraithwalk is now on a choice node with March of Darkness. I never picked March of Darkness before, so that's an easy decision for me. Unholy Momentum. Now you can put 2 points into it and increase your haste up to 4%. Definitely going to take that. Enfeeble, we're going to take that. We're going to take Proliferating Chill. Veteran of Third War. Brittle. We might take Death Pact later. There's this new talent, Blood Bond. While you are below 50% health, your ghoul sacrifices 4% of its maximum health to heal you for 1% of your maximum health every second. That could be good, but I'd be concerned if it would kill your ghoul too quickly. I'm not sure about this talent. It might be good, but I'm gonna leave it blank for now. Icy Talons need Death Note. Death Notes, raise ally cost 30. Okay, yeah, forget that. Never gonna touch that one. Unholy Bond, need that. Death Defiance. The cooldown of Death Pact is reduced by 30 seconds, and you receive 50% increased healing while its healing absorb is active. So you can buff up your Death Pact. We might take these two. We're gonna leave AMZ blank for now. Anti-Magic Barrier was moved to here. Definitely gonna take it still. Grip of the Dead. We might take it. Defile was removed, by the way, so it only affects Death and Decay. This change was friggin' terrible. Death's Reach is now on a choice node with Asphyxiate. PvE DKs probably don't care, but PvP Death Knights like myself are pissed. Death's Reach has been such a staple for DKs that, like, trying to play Battlegrounds without it, forget it. And with the current alpha build, Strangulate still replaces Asphyxiate, so if you want Strangulate, you still need to pick Asphyxiate. So you have to choose between either having a longer grip or crowd control. I'm gonna go with Asphyxiate for now, but I really hope they change this. I think it'd be fine if Death's Reach was on, like, a choice node with Grip of the Dead or Unholy Endurance, or make it its own separate talent again. Don't make it share a node with a stun. That's terrible. That, or make it so that you can pick Strangulate without also picking Asphyxiate. Just separate those two abilities. That way, you could choose between either having 2 forms of crowd control or having long grip and your silence. That would be okay, but as it currently is, it's terrible for PvP, especially with Warlocks getting double gateway, but, you know, enough of that. I'm gonna take Suppression, not taking Blood Scent. Unholy Endurance was changed. It no longer makes your Lichborn also reduce damage taken. I don't think it's that bad. At least you don't have to worry about popping Lichborn as a defensive when you're up against a Red Paladin who can stun you with Wake of Ashes. So yeah, I'm still gonna take Unholy Endurance because I want to get to Runic Protection. And we still need 3 more points. What would I put them in? Maybe Gloom Ward, maybe Death Pact and Death Defiance. Maybe AMZ and Assimilation, maybe Grip of the Dead, maybe Blood Bond. I'm gonna go with Death Pact and Death Defiance for now. And I think also AMZ, even though it's 4 minutes, which sucks, but we could turn into 3 minutes with Assimilation. Need Osmosis, need Rune Mastery, need Null Magic. This, need this, and definitely need Double Grip. So we got 3 points left. I think we put 1 in Assimilation so that AMZ is a 3-minute cooldown. And the last 2 I think we put in Gloom Ward. Or we could take 1 point out and put it in Grip of the Dead or Blood Bond. Or Blood Draw, but I'm going to put both in Gloom Ward for now. If I'm in a battleground and the enemy does not have a lot of magic damage, I might take the points out of Assimilation and AMZ and put them in Blood Bond and Grip of the Dead, or Grip of the Dead and Blood Draw. My concern with Blood Bond is my pet gonna die too much? I could see myself picking this for Blood or Frost, but if it kills my main Unholy pet too much, then I'm losing damage output. I mean, if I'm dead, I'm not putting out any damage, so there's that to consider. All of this is subject to change, of course, so, you know, we'll see when the expansion comes out. Blizzard, if you're watching this, please move Death's Reach away from Asphyxiate. Thank you. Okay, back to the past me, or present me, whatever. As for the hero talents, I think Rite of the Apocalypse is going to be the best tree for Unholy and Frost again. What you'll notice is that they added 3 new talents on the right side here. They basically took the tier set bonus from Season 3 and threw it onto this hero tree, and I think they're doing that with other talent trees. I don't know how many of them, but we'll see. Dark Transformation summons 4th White Mane. When you cast Death Coil or Epidemic, White Mane also does that. And just a flat damage buff to your Horseman. For Sand Lane, there's Thrill of Blood. Essence of the Blood Queen additionally increases your mastery by 0.2% per stack. Visceral Strength, Sudden Doom is consumed. You gain 8% strength for 5 seconds. And Vampiring Strike increases the damage of your permanent ghoul by 20% for 8 seconds. Multiple applications may overlap. That sounds good, but I still think Rider is going to be the best for Unholy. And to just go over Deathbringer real quick, Frigid Hunger, upon exploding, Reaper's Mark increases your crit chance. Frost Strike and Glacial Advance damage increase. And Reaper's Mark deals 5% increased damage. Casting Frostworm grants 2 stacks of Exterminate with 100% First Scythe and 100% Second Scythe effectiveness. Okay, cool. Okay, now for the Unholy Tree. So out of all 3 specs, Unholy probably has the biggest rework. How it works is, well, first off, Apocalypse is gone. And Festering Wounds are also gone, so no more applying Festering Wounds and popping them. What Festering Strike does now is, well, what it used to do is, you used it, it would put 3 to 4 wounds on the target, and then you would pop the wounds with Scourge Strike. How it's going to work in Midnight is, when you use Festering Strike, your next 3 to 4 Scourge Strikes summons a lesser ghoul. So instead of summoning ghouls with Apocalypse, you're going to be summoning ghouls, like, just passively. It sounds like a melee demo lock, which I think is cool. And as I said before, Defile's gone, and a couple other talents are gone that you'll see as we go through. Okay, so Outbreak is different. Now, instead of infecting the target with just Virulent Plague, it also gives them Dread Plague, which is a malicious plague that seeps into the soul of its host, dealing 350% of attack power. Shadow damage over 15 seconds can be applied to 1 host at a time. Scourge Strike is basically the same, except when you hit a target with Virulent Plague, it spreads that dot to other targets. So like I said before, you no longer need Death and Decay to cleave. You could just hit him with the normal plague and you'll just naturally do AoE. Sudden Doom makes Death Coil cost no runic power. You know, gonna have to take that. Clawing Shadows is different. It no longer turns your Scourge Strike into a ranged ability. Now what it does is it guides your strikes, increasing the damage of your Scourge Strike and causing it to grant you Clawing Shadows up to 4 times. For each stack of Clawing Shadows, your Scourge Strike chains to an additional enemy. Each subsequent chain deals 25% reduced damage. So yeah, no more ranged Scourge Strike, unfortunately, but Doomed Bidding, your Sudden Doom procs are also gonna summon a lesser ghoul. And we have this new spell, Putrefy. Decay the oldest lesser ghoul under your command over 2 seconds to have them explode for shadow damage, and lesser ghouls do not expire while decaying, okay? It has 2 charges, and there's a 15-second recharge time. The main thing I'm concerned about is I'm not going to be able to tell, like, which of my ghouls is the oldest one, I don't think, so I don't know which one explodes and if they're close to the target. Maybe if they automatically leap to the target and explode. Unless the explosion is, like, really big, I don't know. I'd have to try it to see. Foul Infections, we're going to take. Dark Transformation, we're going to take. I forgot what the previous talent was called, but there was a previous talent that got removed, and now it's baked into Dark Transformation, where Death, Coil, and Epidemic extend the duration of this effect by 1 second. So that saves you a talent point. It's just baked into the main ability. So how we build this tree is going to depend on if we're going for a dot build or a pet build or necromancer build. We're going to start off with the necromancer build, and then we're going to see what a dot build would look like, maybe. So right off the bat, this choice node pisses me off. You can either increase the crit damage of your diseases or the crit damage of your minions. But the thing about Unholy is that Unholy DKs don't care about crit in PvP. I don't know how raiding and dungeon Unholy DKs feel about crit, but for as long as I can remember, crit damage for Unholy is just no good. But you have to take this talent if you want to get to Reaping, which is a very good talent. So if we're going for a dot build, I guess we would pick Plague Mastery. If we're going for the Necromancer build, we would go for Grave Mastery. I'm going to assume Grave Mastery for now. Morbidity, diseased enemies take 2% increased damage from you per disease they are affected by. So I think that's a must-have. Super Strain. Okay, this was changed. What it used to do is when you put Virulent Plague on someone, it would also put Frost Fever and Blood Fever on them. Or Blood Plague, whatever it was called. So unfortunately, there's no more Frost Fever and Blood Plague for Unholy. Now what it does is when Dread Plague deals damage, it has a chance to grant you 4 runic power. I believe that's what Frost Fever did, so there you go. Gonna take Reaping, obviously. Okay, this is the only talent that's worse than the crit choice node talents. Rapid Variant. When an enemy afflicted by your Dread Plague dies, it erupts and infects another target. So, keyword, when your target dies. This talent does nothing until you actually kill someone. But when you kill someone, that usually means you're winning. So this talent is useless. And here we have another choice node. You can either have it so your lesser ghouls serve you for 4 seconds longer, or they do 30% increased damage. I think I want more damage. Whichever one gives you the bigger DPS increase, but I don't know which one that is. We'd have to test it to find out. Infected Claws. The infected claws of your ghouls have a chance to sicken the foe, dealing shadow damage over 12 seconds. If this effect is reapplied, any remaining damage is added to the new effect. That sounds like a good ability to me, so I'm going to take that, especially if you're going with a Necromancer build. Magus of the Dead, we all know what that is. When you use Dark Transformation in Army of the Dead, it also summons a Magus. I would like to take that talent, but I'm going to hold off on it for now. Ebon Fever, diseases deal 15% more damage over time in 75% of their duration. That could be good. Call of Devastation. Your Death Coil deals 10% increased damage. It causes the target to take more damage over time. I feel like I have to take that. Sun and Doom triggers 30% more often and can accumulate up to 2 more charges. Okay, we're going to see... we didn't get to the Apex talents yet, but it has to do with Death Coil, so we want to take talents that boost our Death Coil, regardless of whether we take Necromancy build or dot build. Putrefy damage is increased by 50% and now deals damage split between enemies hit. Each additional enemy struck increases the damage of Putrefy by 50%. That could be good. Menacing Magus, your Magus of the Dead, Shadow Bolt now fires a volley of Shadow Bolts. Ghoulish Frenzy, we all know what that is. I'm taking it. Blight Burst. The eruption effect of Putrefy consumes 6 seconds of your plagues on all enemies hit, dealing 100% of their damage they would deal over that time instantly. That sounds annoying because it basically means you would have to reapply your dots a lot more often every time you use Putrefy. It could do a lot of damage, but it sounds annoying. Maybe that is the best talent to take. I don't know, but for now, we're going to leave it blank. Festering Corruption. Runic Corruption now increases your rune regeneration rate. Yep, I'm taking that. Unholy Devotion. Putrefy now decays the lesser ghoul over 4 seconds and causes it to go on an Unholy Frenzy, increasing their attack speed and damage by 150% until they explode. Okay, so Putrefy would not just be make the ghoul explode, it would also give it like a little mini bloodlust. We have to take this regardless because we need Army of the Dead, and all will serve is not worth it in my opinion. Maybe it will in Midnight, we'll see. Now, before we get to Army of the Dead, I just want to go over the Apex talents first. The Apex talents for Unholy DK is Forbidden Knowledge. Army of the Dead siphons the power of the Fallen, transforming Death Coil and Epidemic into Necrotic Coil and Graveyard for 15 seconds. Necrotic Coil, unleash Vortex of Necrotic Energy and Bone, dealing physical damage up to 3 foes, and shadow damage to all pierced enemies. It's basically just a beefed up Death Coil, and Graveyard is just a beefed up Epidemic. So you don't have to take the Apex Talents, but I'm gonna assume that taking the Apex Talents is is for every BIS build. The next one is 2 points. Forbidden Knowledge. Army of the Dead grants 40 runic power and causes your next 2 Scourge Strike to summon a lesser ghoul. So you pop Army, you get 40 runic power, and you can instantly cast a Death Coil, which I think is 30 runic power in Midnight. And the final one, Forbidden Knowledge. When you putrefy a lesser ghoul or summon one with Scourge Strike, the duration of Forbidden Knowledge is extended by 1 second. Army of the Dead. I feel that's a must-have. You're crazy if you don't take it. You need it for Rite of the Apocalypse, and even if I was doing a dot build, I would still take Army. It's a 90-second cooldown, and it summons 8 lesser ghouls to swarm your enemies. And we're just going to go down the line. Commander of the Dead. It's 2 points. Dark Transformation empowers your Gargoyle, your Abomination, your Maguses, and your lesser ghouls for 30 seconds, increasing their damage by 50%. And the final one down the line is a choice node between Raise Abomination and Summon Gargoyle. So if you pick Raise Abomination, you summon 4 ghouls instead of 8, but you get an Abomination that attacks enemies while emitting a disease cloud that does AoE plague damage over 30 seconds. Enemies within the disease cloud take 20% increased damage from your minions. It doesn't look like it infects your targets with virulent plague anymore, which is unfortunate, but what it gets in return might be worth it. Or we can pick Summon Gargoyle. Army of the Dead summons a Gargoyle into the battlefield to bombard your enemies for 25 seconds and grant you 50 runic power. The Gargoyle gains 1% increased damage for every 1 runic power you spend. Okay, so let's think about this. With Raise Abomination, you only summon 4 lesser ghouls, but all your minions do more damage when they're in the cloud. I don't know if that includes the horsemen or not, but if we pick Gargoyle, we get 8 lesser ghouls instead of 4, and it looks like it does more single target damage, I'm assuming. Gosh, this is a tough choice to make, but also if we pick Gargoyle, we get 50 runic power when we use Army of the Dead, so that combined with Forbidden Knowledge, that gives us 40 runic power when we use Army of the Dead. So if we pop Gargoyle, we get 90 runic power. And I believe Death Coil is 30 runic power, so that's 3 Death Coils. So you can increase your Gargoyle's damage by at least 90% right then and there. He also lasts 5 seconds shorter than Abomination. Everything is subject to change, and we'll see where the future takes us, but I think we're going to go with Gargoyle. This talent, Blighted. Scourge Strike. Critical strikes causes your diseases to inflict their damage at 50% effectiveness instead. We don't care about crits, so I don't think we're going to take that talent. Blightfall. All diseases deal 20% increased damage. I think regardless of whether you go with the Necromancer build or the dot build, I think you're going to want this because I believe it also affects the dot that White Mane puts on the enemy. Unholy Aura. So for Unholy Aura, it used to be you get 1% mastery for every lesser ghoul you have. Now it's you get 2% mastery for every Magus of the Dead under your command. The haste you get from putrefying the lesser ghoul is the same. I still think it's a good talent to take. The only main thing is it would probably incentivize me more to take Magus of the Dead instead of Infected Claws, or maybe this choice node. I don't know. I really wish they would switch these two. Okay, back to the past. Ancient Runes. Each rune consumed increases your strength by 1% for 20 seconds. Multiple applications may overlap. I think that is also an auto pick, whether you go for the Necromancy build or the dot build. And this one at the very bottom, Reanimation. When you putrefy a lesser ghoul, it has a 100% chance to reanimate as a Magus of the Dead who hurls frost bolts and shadow bolts at your foes for 15 seconds. Additionally, Magus of the Dead spells deal 25% increased damage. I think you probably get more value out of Reanimation than you do Magus of the Dead here, because with Dark Transformation and Army of the Dead, together they summon 2 Maguses. But with Reanimation, you also summon 2 Maguses with Putrefy, but there's a talent that increases the Putrefy charges from 2 to 3, which we're going to go over in a minute. It's in the PvP talents. So we're going to pick Reanimation. And that's what I think would be the Necromancy build. Unless I didn't want Reaping, because if I don't want Reaping, then I'm not going to take Grave Mastery, in which case, where would I put those 2 talent points? I would probably put them either Magus and Menacing Magus, or Magus and Ebon Fever, I think. Or maybe even Putrid Echoes, I'm not sure. But if we're going with the dot build, there's these two talents here. Scourging, Scourge Strike now instead causes your plagues to erupt for the damage they would inflict over 3 seconds at 35% effectiveness. And Festering Scythe, Festering Strike now follows up with the Festering Scythe, slashes through all and... Try to say that 5 times fast. Festering Scythe slashes through all enemies within 14 yards in front of you, dealing shadow damage and hastening all your plagues on targets hit to deal damage 35% faster for 20 seconds. So if I was going for the dot build, what would I give up for it? What would I give up for that? I don't even know. Ghoulish... nope, can't do that. Would you give up Gargoyle or Raise A-Bomb? I don't know. So now that Apocalypse and Festering Wounds are gone, a lot of the PvP talents for Unholy were changed. Necrotic Wounds gives Putrefy 1 additional charge and applies a Necrotic Wound to the enemy when it deals damage, absorbing 8% of all healing received for 15 seconds. Max 3 stacks, adding a stack does not refresh the duration. It also goes well with Forbidden Knowledge, so I think it's a must-have. Strangulate, I think I'm still going to take that. Necromancer's Bargain. Festering Strike no longer causes Scourge Strike to summon a lesser ghoul, but instead causes it to deal shadow damage and heal you for 100% of that amount. If you're going with the dot build, you might take that. I don't think you would take this if you're doing the Necromancer build. So maybe... Doom Burst? Sun and Doom also causes your next death coil to deal the damage of your plagues an additional time at 25% effectiveness and reduce the target's movement speed. So, yeah, it might look something like that. The only thing that pisses me off about this tree is that this crit choice node has to be here. I would swap it with literally any other talent. Swap it with literally any other talent and I would be happy, unless it was rapid variant, then I would be more pissed off. But aside from that, if you swapped it with, even with all will serve, or like it would be fine, but like just don't put this here. That's my only complaint. And I say this as a PvP Unholy DK. Maybe the rating Unholy DKs love that, but you know, oh, sorry, Gengar. Aside from that, it looks interesting. I'm looking forward to trying it out. And now on to Frost. The talent tree itself hasn't really changed so far. We got these Apex talents here. Frostworm's Fury deals 100% increased damage to the first enemy it hits and grants you 15 haste for 12 seconds. Casting Frostworm's Fury forward grants 50 runic power. Recalling it grants 2 killing machine stacks. What does recalling it mean? Well, for the final one, Frostworm's Fury deals 100% increased damage, and after you shoot the dragon, you can cast it again to have Frostworm's Fury come back again to recall it at 50% effectiveness. So you can cast Frostworm's Fury twice. I don't think that resummons the Horsemen. If it does, that's insane. There are also some other minor changes, but overall, so far, nothing's with the tree itself really changed. PvP talents, I don't think anything really changed. This unfortunately still exists. Either nerf the damage and get rid of the cooldown increase and the movement slow, or just take the talent out of the game. I hate this talent. Blood also went through some pruning. Bone Storm is gone. Blood Tap is gone. Rune Tap is gone. Blood Drinker, whatever it was called, is also gone. All of these talents are gone. Consumption was changed. Now it's an empower spell like the Evoker's Fire Breath, but instead you can move while empowering this move. So can it be kicked? I don't know. If channeled 2 seconds, so it could be kicked. So I assume it could be kicked. Another change that stands out to me is this choice node here. Abomination Limb is back for only blood DKs, and you can either choose that or you can go with Gorefiend's Grasp. Abomination Limb is still a 2-minute cooldown, but Gorefiend's Grasp is 1 minute, and it also silences the targets. So for PvP, if I was playing Blood, I think I would pick Gorefiend's Grasp over Abomination Limb. If I'm playing an RBG, for example, and I have a healer with me who can do a knock, you know, I grip someone, I Gorefiend's Grasp them, which grips them all together and silences them, and then my Shaman or Evoker or whoever just knocks them all off the cliff. So that could be a really good spell to use. It could also be useful in BG Blitz. For the Apex talents, we have Dance of Midnight. While Dancing Rune Weapon is active, parrying an attack has a chance to make your next hard strike free and deal 150% increased damage. For each Dancing Rune Weapon active, your damage is increased by 6% and your damage taken is reduced by 4%. And when you consume a rune, you have a chance to call a Dancing Rune Weapon to your aid for 6 seconds. That sounds pretty good to me. This also stood out to me, Blood Mist. When you cast Dancing Rune Weapon, you become enveloped, whatever, in a blood mist that surrounds you for 8 seconds, increasing your parry by 5%. Deals 64% of attack power shadow damage every 1 second to enemies within 10 yards. Every time it deals damage, you gain 2 runic power, up to a maximum of 10 runic power. Deals reduced damage beyond 8 targets. And then Sanguinary Burst is when Blood Mist ends, it deals shadow damage to 8 nearby enemies, healing you for 15% of the damage dealt. The damage is increased by 2% for every 1 runic power spent while Blood Mist was active. There's also this choice node here that hasn't been implemented yet, so I guess more on that in the future. And that's all she wrote, folks. What would you want to see changed? Personally, for me, they gotta move Death's Reach. That's my number 1 reach. We're still like months away from midnight, so there's still time. Please, Blizzard, if you're seeing this, please move Death's Reach into Grip of the Dead or this dumb talent that nobody uses. Like, almost anything would be better. Thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed this video and you would like to be notified for future videos, hit the subscribe button. Liking and commenting the video also goes a long way. Hope you all have a pleasant evening, and I'll see you next time. Take care.